Hey folks, so we are on part 3 of the Unit 3 project, and what we're going to start doing is programming in some of our hazards for this game. So if you read the documentation, we have to have basically one of each of the following types of hazard. One of them would be a falling hazard, one is a stationary enemy, and one is a moving enemy. So here, as you can see, I already have a sort of falling hazard set up. Here you can see I have my little dog. And if he falls right here into this split portion of the screen where the two white blocks end, he will lose a life. So the first thing that I did to set this up is I have another costume. I'm going to delete this middle one right here for my platform, which I've called split platform. Here I have main and split. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the exact same code that I already have set up to basically make this switch costumes. So, and what I mean by that is, we have this scene change script right here that will basically send a broadcast message anytime I move to the right or left of the screen. So we'll broadcast either second, third, or first scene, right? And we use that to change the stage. Well, I'm going to do the same thing for this ground platform right here. So here I'm going to look for broadcast messages. I'm going to say when I receive, let's say reset, I'm going to switch to the main platform. I want to use the main platform for the initial scene, and I want to use the split platform for the second scene, right? So I'm going to duplicate this code right here, and I'm going to say when I receive the second scene message, I want to go to that split platform. Now, of course, the issue with this is if I go to that second scene and it'll change the split platform, it won't ever change back to the main platform that we're using. So what I'm going to do instead is now go duplicate, and duplicate one more time, and I'm going to check for the other messages to go to the main platform. So if I receive the first scene message, I'm going to go to the main platform, and if I receive the third scene message, I'm going to go to the main platform. So here I go ahead and click start. So you can see the reset, it sets it to the main platform. As I go to the right, now it says, hey, you know, we've hit this, you know, middle scene. So my guy kind of floats across it right now. So if I do this properly, jump and then move, you can see it changes. So now I'm on each scene. It changes when I go to scene, and that's all we really need. So here I'm going to go ahead and click Z, and I'm going to hit stop. And that's how we set the split screen sort of, you know, falling hazard up. All right, so we've got our falling hazard. What happens now that we need to set up a moving enemy? So I'm going to take you through a couple of changes I made real quick just to show you what I'm working with. In the ground sprite, right, so this white sort of barrier that I've set up, you can see right here I have an extra little scene of the white barrier. Typically it looks like either this or it looks like this. And now we have our third one. You know, we either have our main platform, our split platform, or our double platform now. So I just created a double platform, but one of the issues, as you can see here, is that when I drew it, it causes, you know, multiple layers right here, and it looks kind of goofy, right? Like I can't really have this be in the middle. I mean, I could, but instead I want to have it all kind of start at this bottom line. So I've set up a script inside of my ground sprite, and it basically does the same thing that our stage does. So each time that we look and we receive one of our messages, this is one of the reasons why we set up that broadcast messages, is that when I receive reset, you can see here, I switch to a costume I call main platform, and I go to a particular position that fits for that sprite. And then I go to a different one when I switch to the third scene, which is my double platform. And then when I go to my second scene, I change into that split platform. So right here, you can see if I go ahead and if I switch to, let's say for this sprite, I switch to the middle one, you can see that X position, it has it a little bit high. So when I switch between the different ones is why I'm changing this Y coordinate right here. So if we click play real quick, you can see if I go to the right, it goes to my split platform, I jump over it, and now is where I have the double platform that I've set up, right? So if I go ahead and click stop, and I reset to my main position, the next thing that I'm going to do is set up a simple moving enemy. So as you can see here, I have moving enemy set up. I believe the name of this character is Walda or Martha or something like that. But she's going to serve as my moving antagonist, and she exists on the 3rd level. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set up a simple part that I need. I'm going to have Martha, who we'll just call Walda for now. We want her to hide when we hit reset, right? So when we hit reset, we want Walda to hide, right? So when we reset, we can see she goes away, but we also want her to show up on our 3rd scene. So if I go to 3rd scene, I want Walda to show up. So I'm going to replace hide with show right here. And I'm going to snap that in. So now when Walda receives the 3rd scene, she goes ahead and shows. I'm also going to duplicate this a little bit so that I don't have to do anything crazy later. But I'm going to say when I receive the 1st and the 2nd scene, I also want Walda to hide. So here on any scene but the 3rd, Walda exists. So if I go over one more time, we can see Walda now shows up. If I go back, she disappears, right? So I'm going to go ahead and click stop. The next thing that I need to do for a moving enemy, of course, is program motion. So she exists on the 3rd scene, so I'm going to drag this down. Actually, I'm going to have this on the right. I liked where it was earlier. Have these to the left and have this one right here. I'm going to create a motion block, and as you can see, I already have enemy motion set up. I'm going to delete it so I can create a new block and show you. I'm going to say, go back, enemy motion, right? I'm going to click OK. And inside of this, I'm going to basically set up Walda's pattern. Before I do that, though, I want to show how that's going to sit inside of that thing, inside of the trigger. So I'm going to have a forever loop, just like my regular motion that's basically checking. I'm going to go inside and edit the basics of what I want Walda to do. And I'm going to switch to all my scenes. So I'm going to click right there. I'm going to click to the proper scene that I want. I'm going to click OK real quick, go to the ground scene, go to 3rd so that everything sets up properly, go back to Walda. If I go to enemy motion, I click edit. I want just a simple glide pattern. So I'm going to take and glide right here. I'm going to duplicate this a couple of times. I'm basically just going to have Walda go right here, move up onto the platform, move left, and then go back down. It really is that simple. So I'm going to say I want to glide 3 seconds to begin with. I want to glide 1 second, 3 seconds later. In the very beginning too, I'm going to actually change something real quick. Go ahead and click stop. I want to make Walda start on a particular position. So I am going to turn on the X and Y so I know where Walda is right now. I want her basically set up right here. So I think I'm going to have her start at, let's say 30. So I'm going to have Walda start at X equals 30 and Y equals -135. And then inside of the enemy motion block, we're going to go in a loop to return to that starting position. So here we glide 3 seconds. Since we started 30 and 135, I want her to glide right here to the right. So that is going to be 190X and -135Y. Then when she moves upwards, her X is going to stay the same at 190, but her Y is going to increase to, let's say, 10. I think that's a good number. Then we're going to move back to our starting position of X of 30. We're going to stay at the Y position of 10, and then we're going to return full circle to 30 and -135. I picked a glide of 3 seconds for the horizontal motion just because I feel like it is, I feel like I kind of want her to move slower on the ground, make a very easy rise up to the top and move slowly up here. And that'll give a player a chance to time it and see when they want to move. So if I click OK and I click right here, you can see Walda moves. She moves 3 seconds across, very quickly up, 3 seconds to the left, and then she moves back down. Later, once we're actually going, you can see if I go ahead and start, Walda has disappeared. I move to the right. I jump over the platform, and now Walda shows up. So later, once we program in, sort of the lives of our dog and the lives of our main character that can disappear, we're going to program a motion in so that if I ever get hit by Walda, I lose a life. And that's how we're setting up our moving character.